What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down this Monday Night Football Showdown slate for DraftKings and FanDuel. And we have a decent one here. We have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Baltimore Ravens in a game that features only a 1.5 point spread, 46.5 point over-under, plus two of the more fun players in the NFL, Alvin Kamara and Lamar Jackson. And then Taysom Hill, a guy that's very frustrating because if you fade him, he's going to go off. If you don't, he's barely going to touch the football. Just a very frustrating player, but we'll try to figure that one out. But anyway, if this is your first time here, what's up? My name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel. And specifically in these showdown videos, what I like to do is go position by position, team by team, so it's nice and orderly. We'll build a lineup as we progress through it, more so for a single entry tournament build. And then at the end, I run the optimizer to see who's popping the most as of right now, given the projections and ownership projections that I currently have in place. And hey, if that sounds great to you, well, the one thing you can do in return for me, and it's free, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit that bell so you know whenever I post new content. And if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, or anything funny you want to tell me in the comment section down below, you are free to do just that. And as always, we will start with the quarterback position. And really quick, if you do want access to the extra content that I do offer, projections, cheat sheets, optimizers, ownership projections, all that fun stuff. And also, I do cover the NBA each and every single day. Links down below in the description or in the pinned comment. But if you do enjoy the free content on YouTube, I do think you'll enjoy the extra stuff over on the Patreon. And it's pretty cheap compared to most out there. Anyway, let's talk Lamar Jackson here. We have three quarterbacks. Usually we only have two, but Taysom Hill likes to be a bit of a wild card. But we'll talk Lamar here first, the most expensive player on the slate, but deservedly so. I always use him as an example in my showdown videos when we talk about quarterbacks. I'm always like, well, yes, this guy is a great quarterback, but he's not a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen type where he can get there by himself. Well, Lamar Jackson is a guy that can get there by himself just due to what he can do on the ground with his legs. You don't really have to worry about his pass catching options too much. And unfortunately for him, his top pass catching option, Mark Andrews, is out for this game. And his other top pass catcher, Rashad Bateman, is also obviously going to be out. So we're running kind of thin here. DeMarcus Robinson's also questionable. So we're kind of running out of pass catching options here. But still 24-point implied team total here for the Baltimore Ravens. We're on the fast track in New Orleans. And on the season, Lamar averaging nearly 70 rushing yards per game, which is almost a built-in 2 passing touchdown floor for what he can do specifically on the ground. Close to 7 designed runs per game, and that does not include all these scrambles that he can get as well. We're talking over 200 passing yards per game, nearly 2 passing touchdowns. The touchdowns have dropped off from what we saw earlier in the season, but hard not to like Lamar here. He should be just fine this season versus the quarterback position. New Orleans Saints are bottom half in the league, despite being 11th DVOA versus the run. But on a showdown slate, even though Lamar is going to be without his top pass catchers, really hard not to like him here. So 11 Lamar, he's going to be my top captain option right there with Alvin Kamara. Andy Dalton, $10,200. Well, he's about the complete opposite of Lamar Jackson. He's not exciting whatsoever. He's quite boring. He's not mobile and just he's not that fun. Although last time he was on a showdown slate versus the Arizona Cardinals, he broke the slate. The guy was phenomenal. I don't expect that to happen again, but you always have to have interesting quarterbacks here. And the Baltimore Ravens defense this season has not been that great versus the quarterback position, 21.6 points per game, ranking 25th, which I believe is what the 8th most points allowed per game at the quarterback position, and close to 300 yards passing per game. And as you can see here, 5.6 yards per game on the ground for Andy Dalton. So don't expect anything on the ground from Andy, and that's going to be the reason why I'm probably not going to be too interested in the captain spot, because if he has a great game, well, his pass catchers have to go off. So for Andy Dalton, when he had that great game, Juwan Johnson had a couple of touchdowns. I would rather have put him in the captain spot just to save some money, and you could have built a better build all around, if that makes any sense. And that's specifically for DraftKings. FanDuel is a little bit different. I'd rather get the Chris Olave and obviously Alvin Kamara is a big pass catcher in that offense that you'd have to consider as well. Instead of Andy Dalton in the captain spot, that makes sense. Fine flex play, but as far as captains are concerned, which would much rather get to is either his pass catchers or a guy like Lamar. And then Taysom Hill, $6,400. He's really annoying. If I don't play him, I know he's going to have a great game. And I was very underweight on him in the last showdown slate that the Saints were on. He was like nearly 30% on a FanDuel. I only had like 5% because he was so expensive. He was around this price point, around $10,500. I'm like, well, I think the chances of him getting a touchdown are probably pretty low. And if he doesn't score a touchdown at that price point, not like he's going to give you 20 passing attempts and 10 carries on the ground. Well, lucked out with a nice goal line touchdown catch. I still think being underweight is probably the best way to go here, but you always have to keep in mind with Taysom Hill. You can't full fade the guy because he always has the chance of getting multiple carries around the goal line and potentially a passing touchdown or a receiving touchdown. He can do just about everything. So very scary fade, but I still probably will be slightly underweight. And moving over to our lineup, I know, big surprise here, but we're going to plug in Lamar Jackson, don't really think we need an explanation here, so we'll move on to running backs. And we'll start with the Saints group here first, which it's basically one guy. It's a one-man show. It's Alvin Kamara, $11,400, 15.5 over on FanDuel. It's going to be a tough fade. I mean, the guy went absolutely off last week. I played him. It was nice. Got me third place in the tournament. I don't expect him to have a massive game like that again, but that's always in the cards for Kamara. He can break a slate. When he gets the ball in open field, he can make some great things happen. Mark Ingram's going to be out for this game. Dwayne Washington will be RB2. Played around 20% of the snaps last week. Keep in mind, though, they were blowing them out, so wouldn't expect that much playing time going forward. But with no Mark Ingram, I mean, that does definitely open up some playing time. He's only $200. So, I mean, if he just gets like a catch or something or gets some yards and maybe gets a random lucky goal line touchdown, sure, that can pay off. But I only have him projected for around like 2 points. So I'm not expecting too much here. Pretty much expecting the Alvin Kamara show. And on the year, you're kind of getting 2 players in one, wide receiver and a running back. Close to 16 carries per game, 70 rushing yards. Hasn't really been scoring too much, but those touchdowns will obviously come. And last week, he got a bunch. 4.3 yards per carry, but 50 receiving yards. This will make him so valuable, especially on a PPR scoring site like DraftKings. 7 targets per game, 5.5 catches, and a 22% target share. And the Ravens this season, 25th DVA versus the run and 16th versus fantasy running backs, and allowing over 6 catches per game specifically to running backs. So yeah, tough fade for Kamara. He's going to be my second highest owned captain and my second highest owned player, only behind Lamar Jackson. And like I said, if you just want to throw in some random Dwayne Washington darts, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it since there's no Mark Ingram. And then looking at the Ravens here, Gus Edwards more than likely going to be out for this game. He is listed as doubtful. I don't know about you, but I've never seen someone listed as doubtful end up playing really, at least that I can remember. So you basically have 2 guys, Kenyon Drake and Justin Hill. Yes, Patrick Ricard is a thing, but pretty much a fullback there. He's $800, and well, he does get a target per game, and sometimes you'll see a carry. You better hope it's a random touchdown because he's not going to do too much with the opportunities, limited opportunities that he gets. But Kenny Drake's going to be the lead back here. Played around 60% of the snaps last week. Gus Edwards was playing, ended up getting hurt, so the snaps aren't completely what they would look like if Gus Edwards was out because he did play a little bit. But if I had to guess, we're probably going to see like a 60-40, 70-30 split here in Drake's favor, which it's not bad at $7,200. I wouldn't say the Saints are the best matchup in the world. 12th DVA versus the run, 7th versus fantasy running backs. Lamar Jackson's not really a guy that checks down too much to the running back position anyway. I mean, Drake's seeing 1 target per game, Justice Hill under a target. But, I mean, they're both fine to mix in. But if I'm playing a single entry or a 3 max, I don't really think I'm going to get too much of the Ravens running backs here. But Justice Hill, if you need a value play, I don't think it's bad. Because if he's going to see like 30+% of the snaps, that's at least got some value at that price point. And moving over to the lineup, like I said, we're kind of going with a single entry build here. So not really too interested in singling out a Ravens running back. But we're going to plug in Kamara. And we'll talk some pass catchers. And I'll be honest, we have a bit of a mess here at the wide receiver position because outside of Olave, it's not pretty here. So we'll start with the Saints here first. We'll try to make some sense of this. So Olave is going to be your alpha dog, number 1 here. No Michael Thomas, obviously going to be the number 1 wide receiver here. And then we have Jarvis Landry, could play, might not play. We'll see. If he doesn't play, I think that makes things a little bit easier, but I mean, it sounds like he's trending in the right direction. We have Shaheed, who just keeps doing things when no one expects him to, so I guess he has to be on our radar now. Then we have Callaway, Traquan Smith. Kevin White, last I saw, he got reverted to the practice squad. FanDuel, I guess, doesn't even have a salary on him. I did not see if he got elevated or not, but I guess if Landry is out, could be potential for that. We'll have to wait and see some news on that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with Jarvis Landry, but I'll never forget Kevin White just catching like a random 60-yard catch on one of the Saints showdown slates. That was dumb. But for the Saints here, if Landry plays, I mean, still Chris Olave is going to be the number 1 here. And it's a good matchup versus the Ravens secondary. I mean, they have not been good versus wide receivers this season. They are 12th DVA versus the pass, but 28th versus the position, allowing nearly 200 receiving yards per game, over 41 points per game. So Olave, yeah, I think he's a great play. I mean, seeing close to 9 targets per game with 26% target share, 14% market share of the team's air yards. I believe last I looked, I think heading into this week, obviously it's probably not accurate anymore, but he was second in air yards only behind Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, the guy's getting opportunity, very talented wide receiver. If Landry's back, he's more of a possession guy. I think at his price point, he'd be all right, but it is his first game returning from injury in several weeks, so we'll see how he fits into the offense. Shaheed, I mean, I feel like he's just priced up a lot. He only played around 20% of the snaps last week. I mean, sure, he can catch a random touchdown, but I'm not sure that'll keep happening. Callaway, Traquan Smith. Callaway plays a decent amount of snaps, and if Jarvis Landry happens to be out, I think it's a pretty fair price point for him. Then moving on to the Ravens group here. So no Mark Andrews, no Rashad Bateman. And Demarcus Robinson's currently questionable. Like I said, this position is super ugly this week, and it's really tough to try to figure out which way you want to go. So if Robinson happened to be out, Devin Duvernay would be the wide receiver 1 here. Then you also have James Proche, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And yeah, that's about it. But in the event that Demarcus Robinson does play, these are going to be your 3 main wide receivers here. And Isaiah Likely, obviously, he's going to be probably the main pass-catching threat in this offense. But I'm not really going to go my way to single any of these guys out. The matchup versus New Orleans is pretty good. They're 25th versus wide receivers and 11th DV versus the pass. Actually, very similar matchup to what it is for the New Orleans Saints guys here. But the Ravens don't really throw the ball a ton anyway. So I'm probably not singling them out. But if you happen to have like a last piece fit with whatever side remaining, you need a Baltimore Raven that you want to pair with Lamar Jackson, I'm fine with just taking whoever fits, but not really a huge fan of any of these guys. And moving back over to our lineup, like I said, I really couldn't get my way to play a Ravens wide receiver willingly, especially in a single entry. If I'm playing 20 lineups, 150, yeah, I'll get some exposure to them, but for a single entry, it just seems a bit much. So I'm going to plug in Olave here, get the 2 top options on the Saints. I don't think we're going to go with Andy Dalton in this build, so if the Saints do have a good game, at least they have their 2 options, which if they do go off, it's probably going to be because of these 2 players. So I'll get all my Andy Dalton points through there. And then obviously Lamar Jackson, the captain spot, leaves us just under $4,000 left for the last 3 positions. So like I said, probably can't fit in Andy, but I don't really feel the need to get any of these guys in. Plus most of them are out anyway. So I don't think it's going to be that hard to do. And then moving on to the tight end position, we'll start the Baltimore Ravens here first. And the main thing here is no Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in football. You take him out of the equation. He's very featured. I mean, we're talking about a guy that almost was seeing 10 targets per game as the tight end position. So we are left with Isaiah Likely, who I'm very likely to play. I used the joke in the opposite fashion last Showdown slate where I'm probably likely not going to play him. Well, Mark Andrews instantly died. So as soon as he came out of the game, obviously Isaiah Likely smashed. If I knew that was going to be the case, I would have said Likely is probably my favorite play because, yeah, you take Mark Andrews out of the equation, yeah, he's going to be an amazing play. So we know there's no Mark Andrews. Unfortunately, he's not like $1,600 this time, but this is still a pretty good price point. Likely went off. And then you also have Josh Oliver at $1,200. Although even though Andrews went out in that game early on, didn't really do much. I think he had 1 target for 4 yards, if I remember correctly. So Likely is going to be the main guy here. And at that price point, yeah, he's going to be a top option for me. I think he's too cheap. He's in the Mark Andrews role. He's a good tight end. Pretty talented, I think, pass catcher anyway. And under 6K, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for me. I mean, that's a lot of vacated targets in this offense. No Bateman, no Mark Andrews. So Likely will definitely have a very prominent role. Yes, Oliver's fine, but I would expect Likely to be the main guy you'd want as far as fantasy relevance is concerned. But both will play a lot of snaps. And then for the Saints, there's several guys that can get snaps at tight end here. But we have Adam Troutman returning this week. And so at the beginning of the year, Juwan Johnson was out snapping Troutman for a couple of weeks, and Troutman was out snapping Juwan Johnson. And then obviously with Troutman out, Johnson was getting the main bulk of the snaps and was a tight end 1. And he went off versus Arizona in a very, very good game. And now with Troutman back, we'll see how it's divvied up. I mean, it's definitely going to be a bit of a split. Troutman's price tag's pretty nice below 2K, but it is his first game back from injury, so we'll see how. Again, it's going to be kind of tough to see how they split it up, but I'm fine with either of them. But if you need the extra value, Troutman's fine, but I would expect pretty similar production, honestly. And then always my favorite part of the videos, we have defenses and kickers coming up. As far as the defenses are concerned on this one, I'm not excited about it that much. I think I'd rather play the Ravens defense versus Andy Dalton. Because, Andy Dalton in prime time is usually not the greatest thing in the world, although, I mean, he lit up the Cardinals, had a fantastic game versus them. So, I mean, some things are not always certain. But, as I know they're more expensive, but I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with the Ravens, the lower implied team total against them. But they're on the road. I'm not really huge on either defense here personally. I have the Ravens projected for 7 points and the Saints projected for 6.5. The Ravens being without Gus Edwards, most likely, no Mark Andrews, no Rashad Bateman. I guess it would make sense to maybe get to some exposure to them because Lamar Jackson is going to have to pretty much do it all himself for the most part, but he can certainly do that. So, I mean, I'm all right with either defense, but not excited about it. And then for the kickers, Justin Tucker, Will Lutz, 2 of the better kickers in football. Obviously, Justin Tucker, the best. He's going to be pretty popular, $4,200. Kickers, defenses, they seem to be the key to winning showdown slates more often than not these days. So, yeah, a lot of Justin Tucker exposure, and then Will Lutz is fine as well. And then moving back over to the lineup here, we got 3 spots left. We're going to have to find a value play, but we're going to plug in Likely. I like the price point a lot. Being the tight end 1 in this offense, I think he's, $5,800. Plugging him in. Leaves me $2,800 left for the last couple of spots. Justin Tucker, I guess I'll get exposure to the best kicker in the league. $1,400 left for the last spot. Could go with Josh Oliver. I mean, he's going to have a role. He's going to play probably over 50% of the snaps. I don't hate it. Double trouble at the tight end position here, but I wouldn't say it's my most favorite thing in the world. But you guys can use your own imagination. And this is not the only way you can go. I'm putting 150 lineups. I'm not sure which one I'm going to like the most. This is just something that would fit as we talk through it. And like I said earlier, doing it on the optimizer to see who's popping the most as of right now. No settings, no groups, no randomness, nothing like that. If you are someone that does build multiple lineups, you have to make sure you have those set up because correlation is very important on these showdown slates. So we're just running it raw to see who's popping. And it looks like we got our 152 crunch here, and let's see what we got. So a lot of Alvin Kamara, a lot of Isaiah Likely. I don't think that's too surprising. Lamar Jackson, Chris Olave, top captain looks like Lamar Jackson. Then Isaiah Likely is actually popping a lot. And look, if we look at the third lineup here, I think you guys can see that on the screen. So a likely captain option would have Kamara, Olave, Tucker, Lamar, and Will Lutz. So you're kind of removing having to go the Josh Oliver route, which looks like I think it's this lineup here. So definitely, like I said, many ways you can go, but not too surprising who is popping the most. Looks like Baltimore slightly getting edged out as the players who are popping the most. But like I said, if you are someone that builds multiple lineups, make sure you set up some groups and randomness so these lineups are correlated because these probably aren't that great looking, to be honest. But with that being said, guys, that's all I got for you tonight's video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.